In just over an hour, Karen Reed's murder retrial resumes after very emotional testimony yesterday. The mother of the man Reed is accused of killing, police officer John O'Keefe, took the stand. Peggy O'Keefe testified about the moment she saw her son's body at the hospital, and she told the jury what Reed said to her on that day. Here with me now, CNN correspondent Jean Casares and defense and trial attorney Misty Marris. Thank you both for being here. Jean, there was extremely emotional and dramatic testimony that unfolded in court. What did you see in here?
You know, Sarah, this is so much a trial about Karen Reed. She's the defendant. She's the one that we want to know what she did, what she didn't do. And you forget about the victim sometimes. There is a man that lost his life, a young man, and his name was John O'Keefe, former Boston police officer at this point, and his mother took the stand. And she talked about that she'd gotten the phone call from Carrie Richards saying there's been an accident. John was found in the snow, and she and her husband were driven to the hospital, and she was placed in a room, and finally they said, you can go and see your son, John, in a room in the emergency. I want you to listen.
As I'm walking down, I hear Karen Reed yell, "Peg, is he dead? Is he dead, Peg? Peg, is he dead?" And I just kept walking, and then I asked, I don't know who it was, a nurse or a worker at the hospital, and I said, "What is she doing here?" And she says, "Oh, she's being psych evaluated." So then they brought us down to the room where my son was. He's bruised up, his eyes were closed. It's just not a good scene.
And that's when Peggy O'Keefe found out that her son was in fact dead. As far as Karen Reed, her father had called the police and said that he thought she was suicidal. And so she actually had been taken in an ambulance to the hospital because of that. But obviously she was close to the room, walking the hallways. But we saw the emotion of this mother, and we learned through her firsthand she had lost her daughter, she'd lost her son-in-law, and they had two young children, and this was some years back, and John O'Keefe was the one that stepped forward as a single man and said, "I will take them."
Yeah.
And he was raising them alone.
Yeah. Wow, it was really touching and really sad to see the mom up there having to testify again in this case. I do want to ask you, Misty, about a bombshell moment that you thought was maybe a bombshell moment, but maybe wasn't. What happened?
So there was testimony yesterday, and this was a woman who is critical to the case that testified before the grand jury. And what the prosecutors had basically, during the grand jury proceeding, had asked her a question about what she heard from Karen Reed while Karen Reed was in the back of a squad car. Okay, so she gets on the stand and she testifies at trial, and she's impeached with her grand jury testimony. And the defense really went for it to show that what she said was inconsistent. Essentially, before the grand jury, she said that she heard Karen Reed say that she had to Google hypothermia. Now, this is a critical issue in the case, but whether or not O'Keefe had hypothermia. In fact, defense experts are going to come and say that he never experienced hypothermia. But the reason that this was such a moment is that the defense attorney was able to say, well, did you actually ever hear Karen Reed say that, or did you hear it from somebody else? And she had to say, no, I didn't hear her say it from her mouth. Now, that was a big moment for a lot of people. It impeached her credibility. But to me, I thought it could be chalked up to a misunderstanding of the question, because it was not about, it was about what she heard from Karen Reed, but the way the question was asked, it could be, did you hear that this had happened, that Karen Reed had made that from a third party? So I'm not sure it really landed the way that the defense really wanted it to.
Jean, I know you watched the first trial and now you're watching this. Are there any huge differences that you're seeing in this one?
Well, we're on to clip number 5 at this point of her interviews. And there was an interview yesterday that they played, and it's not getting attention, but it is very important, because was the taillight really broken because she clipped and hit John O'Keefe? He fell backwards and cracked his head open because it was a skull fracture. Or at the Sally Port, did all the police officers really get into that taillight and pull those pieces out to frame her and place them at the scene? There was an audio clip yesterday, it was just audio, But he was interviewing, she said, you know, that morning about 5 a.m., I saw that my taillight was really broken, and I saw the light bulb inside, and there were pieces out, and some of the red plastic was touching the light bulb, and I was afraid there was going to be an electrical issue, so I was picking pieces out and putting them on the ground because I didn't want anything to happen with the taillight. That's huge evidence right there. That's very big evidence, and they were showing the defense in the courtroom as that was being played, and they're going to have to counter it because that is the basis of everything here.
That's the conspiratorial defense.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah, the police did, or the police officer she's accusing of beating up and killing her boyfriend.
And first thing this morning, the judge is going to determine if Investigation Discovery, which did a documentary on her embedded with the defense, part of a Warner Media company, if a clip is going to be allowed from that documentary.
Wow. All right. To you two, I know you're enthralled in this, but you did bring up the most important point, that a man is dead and his family is suffering through all this for a second time.
Yes.
Very difficult for that family. Misty Marris, thank you both so much. John?